Travis Wayne Goodsell. Let's get into the introduction video for the playlist on administration. I'm wondering if I should include the first one. I think we'll hold off the presidency, because succession is involved with it, and then I would have to explain and go into a bashing of how nobody properly succeeded Joseph Smith, and thus have to explain, and then we'll have to go into, well, how does the church properly start up again? So let's leave that for the next video on this category. So Joseph Smith's administration had some differences, and we'll go over each of these, like I said. The first is the Amen. It's the position of Moses, as section 107, verse 91. Let's make sure that's the right passage. Yep. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses. So Joseph Smith was this position, and like I said, he prescribed a method for how to succeed him, and it was not followed by anybody. And it does make some changes. I probably could tell briefly, give you a teaser. He suggested to replace him, instead of counselors, which they could have counselors, the first presidency succeeding him needed to be composed of 3 presidents. Now, yes, current, I'm not going to bash. Counselors are counselors. But that's the top position. It's going to be even harder when I get to the scriptures, because church history, I'm going to get to it when I get to church history under scriptures. And so, yeah, this is the top position. In Amos 3:7, it refers to Adonai Yahweh, which is the Aten. That is referring to Moses, as Amose is almost the same spelling, but not. And the Aten was Akhenaten, who changed his name from Amenhotep IV to Akhenaten. And so the Aten became the head god and replaced Amen. I most likely talked about it in the Amen video. And so of the Melchizedek priesthood, you have, under Joseph Smith, you had regular apostles. These were not the 12 apostles. That's a separate quorum. Joseph had actual apostles' quorum. So in the New Testament is where this originates. You have the 12 apostles with Peter, James, and John, and Judas kills himself, and they choose Matthias or Barnabas? They choose somebody. But then there's Paul. And if you're unfamiliar with Paul, he's an apostle. But he's not a 12 apostle. It's a completely different category. And so in Romans 16, he calls a woman also an apostle. And so, yes, this is not a priesthood and offices for men only. Joseph Smith, March 17th, 1842, made it available for women through Emma as the Amunet president of the women. And then you have the high priests, which when you go through the temple for your initiatories, I went and did the temple ritual video for you, the high priests and the high priestesses have their own quorum. And so it would then presuppose that there would be one for the anointed. I did this video, dropped the bombshell, which involved bashing, so it was on the other channels. But there could hypothetically be an apostle or an anointed quorum that is different from the presidency, the president or presidents, if they had followed it correctly, having 3 presidents, they would be the anointed ones, the Christs leading the church. Christ leads the church. And in such manner, you could have people that are righteous enough that they get anointed, but they're not presidents of the church. And so, like the 12, you can have a separate quorum of apostles. Likewise for the anointed. So that is available. But it was not done under Joseph Smith. He was the anointed one, the Christ, the Amen, with Amenet, his wife, Emma. And so you have to watch the other video, because there was no actual anointed quorum. And then you have the 70 and presiding bishopric, you have elders, and it seems kind of strange to have 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds going on their missions as elders and elderesses. What is it for women? I think it's still elder. Yeah, some things are going to have to change. Deacons, teachers, and priests were not children under Joseph. These were adults. And part of the restoration of the history of Joseph Smith would help understand this concept. And as Sidney Rigdon was the one responsible for deciding that you had to be at least 8 to be baptized in the church, it was the Smith family, Smith Sr. specifically, who was Congregationalist in Vermont. And as Congregationalists, you had to be voted in to be a member, and you had to be an adult, and you had to have a personal desire and inspiration to become a member before you could be voted on by the membership. And so only adults would be members, and thus only adults would be able to obtain priesthood office. And so you see that mix taking place in Joseph's church. No, it would be bashing. There are laws, even in the state of Utah, there are just some things that I have to explain. That you're not supposed to allow children to obtain any kind of office. And so, yeah. It's a good thing the church is headquartered in Utah. Nobody's going to hold them accountable. The Levites. This is a prophecy quorum that genealogy is only. Let's verify. What? No. Did I not do that? Typed right? Or is it just a computer thing? Levi. Offering Malachi. He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasing. So, yeah, no indication of genealogy. 3 Nephi 24 quotes from Malachi. Section 13 says that the Levites are under the Aaronic priesthood until the sons of Levi do offer again an offering unto the Lord in righteousness. So no genealogy. And so 128 and Joseph Smith history. So Joseph Smith history in the name of Messiah. Priest of Aaron, which holds until priesthood will never be taken again from the earth. Oops. Until the sons of Levi do offer again an offering unto the Lord in righteousness. So still nothing in regards to genealogy, but here it is in section 128. 128 is an epistle from Joseph Smith to the Church of Christ, September 6th, 1842. The bombshell video I did yesterday puts this in jeopardy. This is not supposed to be the channel where I do this kind of video. So let's not get into the genealogy part. We'll hold off on this until we get to the scripture restoration. Or I do it on the other channels as an investigation video. That's funny. So, there's titles that Joseph Smith attached to the president of the church. And as I went over in the temple ritual, the sacrifices and offerings that were brought to the temple were used as the Last Supper symbolism ritual. And of course you need priests who would cook the meat. And that's the job and duty of the Levites. So the restoration of the temple is for this purpose, because you're not having a monetary system, which will be under the economy restoration playlist. As the Book of Mormon says, that if you're not allowed to labor for money. So a monetary system of an economy has to go away. Just as a teaser for that one. I guess before we get into these, as the church grows and gets bigger and bigger and more populous, it becomes necessary to have stakes, not just the central stake, that follow the exact same administrative pattern. So the stake president is supposed to be the high priest president over the particular stake. And the high council is something that would need to be restored as well, as there's a high council distinct from the 12 apostles. And that is not done, is it? But this would need to be restored so that there's a high council for administration and 12 apostles that are for missionary work. After the last days and into the millennium, it's pretty much a search and rescue operation at that point, rather than missionary work. But that would fall under the jurisdiction of the Quorum of the 12 to arrange rescue missions around the world for those who want to come to Zion and be a part of it. And so the stakes at this restoration level are only as the two center stakes, the mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem, are overflowing and require other mountain cities to branch off from them and expand as the population expands. And so in that particular case, you'd have a pattern of the main administration patterned exactly for the various stakes. Okay. The prophet, seer, revelator, translator, these are gifts. They're titles. They're not quorums. But as they are scientific fields, you could utilize these as quorums in and of themselves. For example, one of the gifts is the gift of healing. That's a medical doctor. And so we're going to need medical doctors. Thus, you'd have a quorum of medical doctors. That type of thing. Translator, that's the science of linguistics. so you could have a quorum of translators that would be involved in linguistical matters. I have a restoration of the language that would be involved in a separate playlist as well, and this would fall under that category. And the larger the population, the greater the need for this kind of setup for an organizational structure. So Revelator are your astronomers, not astrologers. And then seers are your scientists that make predictions going forward, like prophets are prophesying, predicting for what would happen in regards to scientific theories. You have to test them for confirmation, and that process is applied for astronomy. You know, when will the sun set today? Well, there's already a precise time because it's already been figured out, and so science is involved in all of this. But a seer also goes back in time, so he's an archaeologist, an anthropologist, as well as seers present day, so he's a sociologist as well. And so these are just gifts in regards to science. They're science. Bite my tongue. And so as the population grows, you would add them. And ideally you'd have doctors, translators from the beginning, but as the population grows, people will, and I would get into the economy part, but people get to choose the fields they want to go into, want to study, want to learn, want to do as their service for Zion. There is no forcing of people to do things, which is different than our current economy that uses money. So that's pretty much it for the introduction.